Welcome to the Luxury Rental Doctor Show, where we explore the secrets of achieving financial freedom and work-life balance. And we do that, my friends, through real estate investing. I'm Dr. Rachel, your host, and I'm so excited, guys. We have an amazing guest with us today. Welcome to the show, Mark Lumpkin. Mark is a true force in the short-term rental industry. He's a seasoned traveler. He's a chef. He's the sales director at STR Cribs. And what's really interesting about Mark is he has helped over 500 investors set up amazing, experiential, high-performing short-term rentals. And he's super passionate about staying ahead of the game. Short-term rentals is fast changing. So today we're going to dive in with Mark and see how we can navigate the shifting landscape of short-term rentals to uncover some of his top secret strategies and hopefully because at the end of the day, we want to not be lumped in with the crowd. We really want to outperform our competition. So let's get into it. Mark, my friend, would love for you to introduce yourself to the people.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Rachel. I'm obviously a longtime fan, longtime listener, first-time caller, and I don't know how else I could introduce myself any better than the intro you just gave me, which I think that was probably the best intro anyone's ever given me. You made me smile. So thank you for that. But yeah, I would say that kind of my love and passion for short-term rentals and the real estate industry started as a traveler and using that method of traveling over hotels and couch surfing and things like that. We really kind of fell in love with Airbnb and VRBO. And so then we just naturally decided to dive in and make that kind of our careers, me and my wife. And so that's how I got here. And yeah, my focus has really been on the setup, the very beginning of the process. You've identified a home, you want to launch it on a platform like Airbnb or VRBO, and there's a lot of stuff to do in between those two things happening, those two major events, the closing and the launch of your property. There's a lot of work that has to be done in the middle. And that's really where I found my niche and what I've enjoyed doing.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Little Bird told me that you and your wife, you have visited over 30 countries and stayed in countless short-term rentals. How would you say your experience has informed you on what are those things that you need to do? How do you leverage those strategies to make sure that as a consultant to us owners that we're staying ahead of the curve?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that it's probably helps us kind of build the foundation for everything that we're doing and everything that we've learned. And we've also had different travel experiences where we've traveled alone, just the two of us as a couple, which we're doing this weekend. We also have little kids, so we've traveled with our kids. We've got pets, so we've traveled with our dogs. And we've done multi-generational family travel where we've had grandma and grandpa and brothers and sisters tag along for, a Christmas at a cabin in Tennessee. And so I think that we've really kind of seen the gamut of what travelers are going through and what travelers are looking for. And we've stayed at great properties, we've stayed at really bad properties,
Mm.
and we've tried to just kind of take that firsthand knowledge and experience and say, okay, these beds were super uncomfortable. Everyone complained about that. Oh my gosh, these beds were great. Okay, what are they doing? Oh, these are foam mattresses. They're definitely better than the other ones. And really just kind of taken that experience that we've had and applied it to the setup and letting owners know, hey, your guests, if they're traveling with kids, are hoping for and expecting these things to happen in order to have a great experience. If you don't have those, they're not going to have a great experience. And so yeah, I think our travel has really just kind of been the foundation of everything that we do. And there's no better way to know what something, if you're a good baker, then you gotta try the food you're cooking, right? If the cake isn't moist and it doesn't taste good, well, you know that the recipe's messed up and you got to change something in it. And I think that's the same with vacation rentals.
So much to unpack, so much to unpack. So we in the green room, we were discussing how I used to work at West Florida Hospital, and I used to have to travel from time to time to go and make sure all the informatics and the systems were in place. And I kid you not, if I had an overnight or a 2 day stay as a solo traveler, I'm okay with staying in a hotel. However, traveling with children, pets, a whole husband, in-laws, that's a whole different dynamic. You better believe I am not interested in staying in a hotel with that entourage, okay? So those who may be just tuning in thinking, Rachel, why do you keep talking about STR, short-term rentals, Airbnbs? Airbnb is dead, right? Guys, realistically speaking, staying in a home away from home is definitely a vibe. What say you, Mark, to those who are thinking, well, the data is stating Airbnb is dead. I read a blog somewhere. There's people on Reddit talking about Airbnb being dead. What say you?
I say that they're totally wrong. I say that the old Airbnb is dead. Yes.
Ah,
The
okay.
air mattress and the hot plate, which is, remember, that's the beginning of Airbnb. These guys just came up with the idea and they rented out a spare bedroom in their San Francisco 3-bedroom apartment, right? And they threw an
Mhm.
old crappy mattress on the floor and they're like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to get $50 a night. Yes, that Airbnb is dead. The new version of the short term rental industry, in my opinion, is live and well, and all the
Mm,
numbers support that.
mm,
Airbnb, VRBO, they post their numbers every single year. Family travel is way up, multi generation travel is way up, nightly
mm.
rate is way up. And what I
Yeah.
think it is it's more of a shift in
Mm.
people aren't having a lot of success with the extra bedroom, the small condo, but they're having a lot of success with the big family home that is part of the destination.
Yeah.
We are going to Tennessee to hang out in Gatlinburg, but this house is part of the experience. We have a pool,
Mm.
we've got a game room, we've got
Yeah,
a extra primary bedroom suite for grandma and grandpa to tag along with, and
yeah,
like the house is a big reason we're going to this destination. I
yeah.
think that's alive and well.
Okay, so much to unpack, but I do wanna take a step back. When you mentioned a little bit earlier, if you're a cook, eat your own cooking. This is something that I actually encourage inside of our communities. Take a forced vacation. Go and stay on at your property at the end of the quarter. Can you make yourself a cup of coffee and a pasta dish seamlessly? It starts to unpack what is missing, what are the gaps at the property level, and so, what I really admire about what you and STR Cribs does, you guys create this more immersive, experiential atmosphere within the properties. So, I think that's absolutely amazing. And you've already started to touch on it, talking about the property being a part of the destination. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so what you touched on is like what I always tell people they should. You should go stay in your house. You should stay in the house for a few days. You're going to find out some certain things that are missing or things that you like or you don't like. That's a great way to get some firsthand experience before you
Yeah.
launch a property. Um, Hiring a service like ours, STR Cribs, is very white glove, very hands off. We've done it hundreds of times. We know from the beginning what you need to do to be successful. So that's an option as well for people. Um, and then, like, just to kind of piggyback off that, I would say make sure that you're not letting your own personal bias
Mm.
affect how you set up your property. And
Oh,
I,
so
I
tell us
have a
more about that. Tell us a little bit
yeah,
more.
I have a great firsthand experience with this that happened not that long ago. Is we have a house near a beach town in Florida, and we self managed this property, and it had done really really well over the summer. And then in the slower months, we had had a few people. We had a person message and say, "Hey, is there TVs in every single room?" And it's a 5-bedroom house, and I was about to tell my wife like, "No, just tell them there's no TVs and they can book it or not." And there's only 2 TVs in the house. And my wife is, and my mindset behind this is they're coming to a beach destination. It's beautiful. It's 75 degrees and sunny. Why the hell do they need 5 TVs in this house? And she was like, well, they're asking for 5 TVs and it's a several $1,000 booking and TVs cost $200. So quit being cheap and quit letting your own personal opinion, like just because you don't think the house should have TVs in the bedroom because you wouldn't use them doesn't mean that there aren't people out there that want those things in the house. And
Mm,
so, really focusing on how you can take care of as many people as possible and make as many people as comfortable as possible and putting your own bias aside, I think will help set your property up for success. And I'm guilty of it. I didn't want to put TVs in this house because I don't watch TV, but our guests wanted TVs in the house, so we put TVs in the house.
and the ROI on that, your wife is my kinda gal. She was like, "Okay, this is a money maker right now. Let's go ahead and accommodate them for
For
an
sure.
extra $200 for a room. Now, if they're asking for an in-ground goodnight swimming pool, that's a different level of
Definitely.
budget. But the TVs, yeah, she's absolutely right. And what I think is really important, Mark, is your guest avatar is going to clearly communicate to you what it is that they want and what it is that they need in so many ways because we started off as luxury. We're not pet friendly. Our pets don't go to our properties until we got the eighth request for a pet friendly stay.
Yep.
And at that point, you got to start questioning your own thought process and your own biases, just like you said. And so, what I did at that point is I reached out to the kennel and I said, "Well, how much would it cost to, board the two pets for a week, 2 weeks?" Oh my gosh, we're leaving thousands of dollars on the table by not being pet friendly. By the eighth time you get a request, guys, pay attention to what your guests are asking for. They're essentially helping you to build out, your amenity stack. So
Yep.
thank you for sharing that story. That was a stark reminder of how we flipped the switch from being anti-pet friendly to, oh yeah, that is our a huge moneymaker for us in our markets.
And kids cause way more damage than pets
Don't
anyways.
they though?
Like,
We-
I it's always funny because we have a 15-year-old 7-pound Maltese poodle who's hyperallergenic, doesn't shed, doesn't even really leave her little bed that we set her on the ground on. But I
Mhm.
have a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I guarantee you that they are going to do some damage to any house that we book. And but my dog will do no damage, but people are fine with me bringing my kids, but they won't let us
Mhm.
bring our dog.
I mean, for those sitting in the back, come back to me if you're multitasking. That is the truth. Our last guest with kids damaged part of our electrical system from going up and down, up and down, up and down with the switch. And so, yeah, we ended up recouping the cost of that repair, but a dog wouldn't do that.
No, definitely. And maybe, maybe your cleaner requests a little bit of extra money
Yeah,
for the dog hair and things like that. I'm not going to say everyone with pets is perfect,
you're right.
but as a general rule of thumb, I think it's a big win to go pet friendly, and I think
Yeah.
that a lot of people like you would agree.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's talk about some of the shifts that we may be seeing in this ever evolving short-term rental industry. What are some shifts that you've seen recently that may excite you, Mark, or what are some shifts that may concern you?
Um, I would say that experiential, or like, what's the right term for this? Yeah, experiential stays, I
Yeah.
think, are on the rise. I think family travel is on the rise. I think there's some underserviced demographics of people. And so I
Mm,
even think about my own experience last Christmas where grandpa's in a wheelchair, he's handicapped, and we had a difficult time finding
mm,
a house that could accommodate all of us because he needs something that's handicap accessible. And so I
mhm,
really think about drilling down on what you said, the guest avatar,
mm.
and creating spaces and homes for them that just make them so comfortable and that people will pay a premium to come stay at. I
Yeah.
think to me that's the big shift. I don't think that you're going to win with a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in the middle of Orlando that's furnished with IKEA furniture and Walmart. I think that that's going to just get
Not the
caught on,
IKEA.
right? You're going to get caught on page number 10 and there's going to be so many homes that are better than you and
Mm,
create a better experience. You can't win like that. But
mm,
I think if you have a unique property or you really double down on making sure the home is set up for your guest avatar, whether that's family, um, accessibility,
mm,
people that have a problem with accessibility and handicap, I
mhm.
think those are the people that are going to do really well because there's not a lot of homes that service, you know, more. I guess it's that term. If you market to everyone, you market to no one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would rather have a bachelor themed house in Nashville, Tennessee, where I
Mm,
know there's bachelorette parties coming, than just a cowboy themed house in Nashville, Tennessee, because every
mm.
house is cowboy themed, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. And this is in such alignment with who we serve in our hybrid markets, where we're serving the midterm and the short term rental folks. So, for the midterm rental folks, what has kept us at the top of their radar is having that master bedroom on the main level, being semi accessible. Not that we're ADA certified or anything, but we have the larger doorways. And that actually shapes my buy box. I'm always looking for master on the main or a bedroom and full bath on the main living area. I'm always looking for a way to accommodate pets. And that alone, guys, has, bumped us up and kept us fully booked in the midterm rental realm. So it's so interesting to me that you just shared that, yeah, for short term rentals, you would have appreciated an accessible property, a handicap enabled property as well. So that further reinforces our thought process with developing that buy box.
Isn't that crazy that you have a bedroom on the main, you make that your focus, and
Yeah.
you have doors that are a little bit wider, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden, just those two, three, four small little things that you're focused on above
Mhm.
everybody else keeps you booked all year round, and you make substantially more money.
Yeah, and you're probably one of the 1 or 2, properties in the entire market that thought about that. So
Correct.
the future of hosts, you have to be thoughtful, like you said, think about who it is that you're serving. And so
Yep.
I know we started to dive a little bit into some of those amenities. When people think about amenities, they're thinking about resort style pools, but we talked about pet friendly and accessible, right? So those are
Yeah.
not necessarily the huge amenities that we would see, the glitz and the glam, but let's have a conversation about that. Now, I've heard you talk about the amenities arms race. Can you explain what that is and how investors can stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah. It is. It's real. It's active. It's ongoing. And I think when you look at prop markets like, let's say, Scottsdale or Orlando, just
Mm.
go to Airbnb, type in Orlando, any dates, and I guarantee you the first 5 pages are going to be homes that are Disney themed, that have
Mhm,
movie props, that have
mhm,
crazy bunk beds for kids. Every house in Scottsdale is going to have a beautiful luxury pool,
mhm,
pickleball courts, tennis courts. And so those two markets to me are great examples of markets that are very far along in the race towards amenities, and there's a lot of options. But if I go to many other markets, they're very underserviced as far as amenities go. If we look
mhm.
in Atlanta where you live,
Oh,
I
yeah.
bet you there isn't more than one or two properties that have a pickleball court. So if I am a first time investor or an investor that has a few properties, I'm buying my next one, and I have a huge backyard. Well, boom, if I put a pickleball court in that backyard, I might be one of the only people in this entire market that has that. That's going to give me a competitive edge simply on the fact that I have an amenity that my competitors don't have. And so it's hard to say exactly what amenity works as a blanket statement because to me it's very market specific. It's very avatar specific. If I have a ADU accessible home that I'm focusing on an avatar of an older demographic and people that are traveling with loved ones that are in wheelchairs, well, of course, a pickleball court is not going to be a great amenity to put in that backyard. But if I'm focusing on kids, having a kids playground and swing set in the backyard and a mini golf course, those are going to be absolute crazy high ROI amenities. And so it's really focusing on your market, what people are doing in that market or not doing, who your guest avatar is, and then figuring out what a great amenity is that can push you over the top.
Okay, so that's awesome. You've talked about a couple of the amenities. You mentioned pickleball court. You mentioned adding a playground in the backyard if the avatar is a family friendly small children. And so those are a couple of the design or renovation elements. What are some other design or renovation elements that you have seen or you believe can give a property that competitive edge? Say a property on the outskirts of the Orlando or on the outskirts of the Scottsdale, Phoenix
Yeah.
area.
Yeah. Well, first, I think that looking at your square footage and your
Oh,
ability to add heads and beds is really important. And
okay.
so you know that, right? A four
Yeah,
bedroom house
love
is
it.
going to do better than a three-bedroom house.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm looking at houses and I see a three-bedroom house that's 2,800 square feet,
Mhm.
I automatically go, then maybe there's some extra square footage in here. Oh, there's two dining rooms? Perfect. I don't need two dining rooms for a short term rental. I could take that formal dining room and flip it into a bedroom pretty
Mhm.
easily and pretty inexpensively. And so I'm always looking for extra square footage that you can add bedroom counts, because the higher bedroom count, the higher ADR. Um, it could even be a garage space. We do a lot of fully permitted garage conversions. And there's a few markets, there's some mountain markets where I know people say, hey, I benefit from having indoor parking because
Mhm.
there's 3 feet of snow this winter. But for the most part, if you're in Florida, if you're in Phoenix, if you're in Atlanta, Georgia, if you're on the Sun Belt, no one's using your garage. Let's be honest. So maybe that's a great use of square footage to add bedrooms and guest count. The next thing I'm thinking about is really just what can improve the property look and feel so that it
Mhm.
pops out of the screen, right?
Mm.
People are booking through visuals, they're looking
Yeah.
at photos.
Yeah.
And so, does a fresh coat of paint in this dingy gray and brown house that just kind of looks blah, does a fresh coat of bright paint make a big difference? Absolutely. Does replacing old kind of grungy, dingy carpet with some nice looking LVP make a big difference in photos? Yeah. And it makes a big difference in your property management CapEx costs, because you don't have to worry about pet stains or drink stains, things like that in your carpet. So I could go on and on about this forever, but to me, those are some of the big things: is how can you add bedrooms with some extra square footage, and then how can you make some simple renovations that really have a big impact in photos and the look and the feel of the property.
Mm. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, Mark, you and STR Cribs have helped over 500 individuals or investors set up their STRs. What would you say are some of the top lessons that you have learned about what makes or breaks a property? How does a property succeed with your experience and the setup that you and STR Cribs have provided?
Yeah, there's been a lot of lessons learned. The top one might be hard to narrow down, but I would say a few of them. I would Success is always intentional, right? We're never
Mm,
accidentally fall into success. You're never going to get in great shape by just half-assing it through the gym and through your diet. You've got to be intentional in what you're doing and making sure you have a game plan and the resources and tools to do that. I
yeah.
don't think it's any different in the short-term rental space. And
Mm.
so when
I
I
like
see
to say
homes,
profitability is intentional. It doesn't have happen by accident. Yeah, you're absolutely
definitely.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your game plan and what are your thoughts around how this property becomes successful? Is
Mm,
it a family friendly home that's dog friendly? Okay, great.
mhm,
Well, what do we need to do to accommodate that guest so that we have a great experience? Well, the backyard needs to be fully fenced, and I need to have a dog bed and a dog bowl and provide some free dog treats and da 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 da. How can I intentionally go after the guest avatar, you said it best, that is going to make this property successful and profitable, and just doubling down on that. So make sure that you're intentional, make sure you put together a game plan. People that come into it with, I don't know what to do, I'm just going to throw some furniture in there
mhm.
and throw it up online and it'll be fine and I'll do well. It's just not going to happen.
100%. And that takes me to our next question because many of our members are busy professionals. What advice would you give them about getting started with STRs, having this amazing setup that will cause them to be profitable while balancing their demanding careers?
Well, one, I think they're probably off on the right foot by listening to your podcast. So I would maybe circle back and listen to all your other episodes. And
Love the plug. Thank you, friend.
yep. Follow all your socials. Obviously, I follow your socials and I'm always
Mhm.
learning new stuff as well. And I've been in this space. So I
Oh,
think
thank you.
one is just try to consume a lot of content, um, and around the short term rental space, listen to the experts, try to just get a little taste of what you need to know, and then look for people in the space who can help you, um, and hire the pros. I think that like I had a plumbing issue at one of our properties and I could have drove over there. It would taken me an hour and I probably could have figured out how to fix it. But it would have cost me it would have taken my whole day. And so is my best use of time to go do that? No, it's to hire a plumber, pay him the $150 for the visit and get it done right the first time. And I think that mindset transcends through everything you do in life.
Mm, yeah. Get the information and hire the pros. I
Yep.
absolutely couldn't agree with you more. And let me ask you this, Mark. What would you say is one big and common misconception about the short-term rental industry that you'd like to debunk for our audience today?
Oh, the biggest misconception.
Mhm.
Oh, this is going to be a good one. That you The biggest misconception is the category that people place the short-term rental industry in as being a
Mm,
real estate investor. And I don't think you're a
mm,
real estate investor. I think you are in the hospitality industry. I think you are in the category of someone who owns a hotel or someone who owns a cleaning company, right? Is You're not a real estate investor. This isn't passive real estate investing. It can be if you have the right systems in place and you have a great property manager and da 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 da. But I like to look at it through the lens of I'm a hotel owner. I'm in the hospitality industry. I have to market to guests. I have to attract them. I have to take good care of them. I have to make sure that they give referrals and that they're repeat clients. I have to make sure that the property's up to their expectation. There's so much more than just being a passive real estate investor. And I think to me, that's the biggest misconception.
Oh, that is so good. And you know what I found that's so interesting, Mark? I remember Dr. Dada and a few of the docs in our community. She's a rheumatologist, and she was really nervous that, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'll be able to do this. I have a private practice and I have a coaching practice as well, and it's going to be a lot. Let me tell you, once she launched her property, she got a virtual assistant to help her out, but she became obsessed. I kid you not. I'm finding that the doctors in our community, they take that patient care and they're able to kind of layer it on top of the hospitality vibe of guest care. They're like, "Oh, I wonder if they're having a good time. I wonder if they saw the new popcorn we added. I wonder." So it's like it's super cute. I was like, yes, exactly. So it's interesting, and I don't think anyone talks about it because that's all we do. I'm surrounded by docs who actually care about patients, and it translates to the
Mm.
hospitality as well. Isn't that something?
That is super interesting. I would have never even thought about that. That
Yeah.
yeah, your mindset of patient care translates perfectly to your mindset
Mhm,
behind guest care. And quite frankly, they're probably really similar in that you get some guests that are easygoing and listen to
mhm.
everything you tell them to do and they have a great experience. And then you have other people that are super needy and they don't
Yep.
follow the rules and da 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 da. You probably deal with the same people in both spaces.
Right. Nurse, nurse, nurse. It's like, okay, that guest that keeps texting about every single thing. Yeah, exactly. It is just so uncanny. And that's why I think I'm biased. I think, medical professionals make the best hosts because don't come for me. I know my engineer folks, y'all are in here. We have a lot of analysis paralysis with my beloved engineer folks, but nevertheless, um,
That's
but I
awesome.
love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So, are you ready for our rapid fire questions, Mark?
I think I'm ready. Yeah.
Awesome. Can you share a moment when you felt completely burnt out and how you overcame it?
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 kids under 4 years old, and, we're
Say
super
less.
hosts, we manage our own properties, and I'm managing construction projects and doing all kinds of marketing stuff, so I feel overwhelmed quite often,
Mm.
and, I would say for me, how I manage that best is I go for a walk,
Oh.
and I throw in the earplugs, and I
Mhm.
oftentimes take my phone with me, and
Mhm.
I will take meetings from walking, and I'm just
Oh, yeah.
walking through the neighborhood, and it gets the blood flowing, it relieves stress, it gives you some creative energy and some juices in your brain. And so
Mhm.
anytime I'm feeling like I'm overwhelmed, I've been in front of this computer for 6 hours, whatever it is,
Mhm.
I get up, throw those walking shoes on, and I start doing loops around the neighborhood. And people hear me, I'm like out of breath, I'm panting, talking on the phone. But to me, that's a great stress reliever. And it also
Mm.
makes me more productive.
I love that. I love that. What's a tool, a book, or a resource that completely changed your perspective on life or on work?
I want to name drop two, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's
And
go. Give us a
I
double. Yeah.
I almost name dropped one earlier when we were talking about something else, but I wanted to save it. So, my favorite audiobook is The Richest Man in Babylon,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I listen to that on audiobook actually sometimes when I'm walking. And if you haven't read it, it's a great book. It's about success, it's about money, it's about investing, blah 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 blah. But it's in a story. It's
Yeah.
interesting, it's engaging. And so I would highly recommend that as a great audiobook and the guy who does it, the voice has got an epic voice.
Mm.
Um, and then my other favorite one is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Mm.
I I am at the point I feel like where I'm circling back on the classics and I'm just
Yeah.
rereading books that I got a lot of value out of instead of new books. And so I think that everyone could benefit from How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think it's probably the greatest success book ever written.
That's a really good one. All right. What is the craziest real estate story you've ever heard or experienced?
Okay, so the craziest real estate story that's personally happened to me is, and I think it's a really good lesson to be learned about
Mm.
buying real estate, physical real estate, and all the things that can go wrong. And I had purchased a property that was a foreclosure, it was a bank foreclosure, sight unseen. I had only seen pictures of it and had the realtor walk it and closed on the property, showed up to do the renovations. And quite frankly, we just got blindsided where that lady had had like 10 cats and they had peed everywhere. And if you
Oh.
know anything about animal pee, it is when it gets bad, there's no fixing it. Like, so we had to rip up the carpets, we had to rip up the subfloors, we had to take the HVAC ducting that was underneath the floors, and we had to replace it all the way back to the unit because they had peed in the vents and it had soaked down in there. Um, and so this house that looked really, really nice in photos and I thought was going to be a pretty simple update turned into a complete gut job. We had to cut drywall out 3 or 4 feet from the wall. It was like a hurricane flooded, destroyed house. Like this thing had like had a cat pee hurricane come through it. And for me, it was just like more of a lesson of physical real estate can be messy. And if you don't do your due diligence and you don't check all the boxes, what you think is going to be a good investment can turn bad on you south very quickly.
Mm.
And don't buy cat pee houses. It's very hard to get cat pee out of
Yes.
houses.
Oh, goodness, goodness, goodness. Mark, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show today. I would love for you to share with the community, how can our listeners connect with you at STR Cribs?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is just to go to strcribs.com. The funny thing is our name is actually a play on the old TV show MTV Cribs, if you remember that, where they kind
Yeah.
of pimped out those houses. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, go to strcribs.com. There's a link to my calendar, my email address, phone numbers on there. Happy to answer any questions. Happy to support anybody that's your listeners, Rachel, any way I can. And thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. To our listeners, be sure to check out STR Cribs. I got to tell you, I love, love, love their projects. They do a standout job. And be sure to look for Mark in all the places. He's always sharing some cool tips and tricks, even on LinkedIn. You didn't even plug your LinkedIn. I know we chat on that all the time. Remember, my friends, the key to success isn't just about following trends, it's about creating spaces that bring joy, that bring comfort, and that bring value to your guests. Until next time, keep dreaming big and building your dreams. Thanks for listening. This is the Luxury Rental Doctor Show. Bye bye for now.